Westfield Memorial Hospital provides high-quality health care to residents of Western New York, offering patients the most sophisticated medical advancements while keeping the ease and familiarity of a community hospital. Support for Chautauqua Sunrise has been provided by WRFA 107.9 FM, Jamestown's public radio station, streaming online 24/7 at WRFALP.com. Low power to the people. Chautauqua Sunrise is made possible by a grant from Fredonia Place, a continuing care retirement community providing dignity in a modern luxury environment. Meter's Restaurant, a family tradition for over 50 years in downtown Ripley, is a proud supporter of Chautauqua Sunrise. Meter's provides all-day dining, banquet services, and custom catering, specializing in pie. Funding for Chautauqua Sunrise is provided in part by the Chautauqua County Industrial Development Agency, with offices in Jamestown, Dunkirk, and Westfield, helping businesses to prosper throughout Chautauqua County. From supporting people with disabilities to enjoy great lives, to providing health care services that are available to anyone, the Resource Center has been improving our county for more than 60 years. Learn more about how the Resource Center makes a positive difference in people's lives. From the Access Chautauqua Studios in Mayville, it's Chautauqua Sunrise. Chautauqua Sunrise is hosted by Doc Hamels and supported by the award-winning volunteers at Access Chautauqua. We are here to share local news, colorful interviews, and events of interest to everyone. Chautauqua Sunrise is broadcast live Saturday mornings each week from 9 to 10 a.m. Send events via email or call us live. Check us out on YouTube and Facebook. And now, from the Access Chautauqua Studios, it's Chautauqua Sunrise.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Hello around the world. So glad you could drop by and join us here at Chautauqua Sunrise at Access Chautauqua. For those of you that are watching us or streaming live with us right now, we also are on Spectrum 1301 here in Chautauqua County if you ever want to check us out on television, if you have the ability to find us. Or later on, you can always find us on YouTube forever and ever, hopefully, and also on Facebook, where we post to that on our Facebook page. Well, I hope you're doing well. This is a pre-taped show today due to some scheduling issues, and therefore, you can't talk to us, but you certainly can leave a message. You could email us and so forth, and we're going to pop that information up here, but you still can call 753-5225 and leave a message. Why would you want to leave a message? You might have a fundraiser coming up. Believe it or not, many organizations are kicking back into high gear again now that many of the COVID restrictions have been lifted. People are having events and so forth, and we want to share that with you. We have a light schedule of announcements today, but over the years, we've just announced thousands and thousands of different things, and we're happy to do that for you. Just leave a phone number, contact information and so forth. Give us the dates, the times, the place, and all that sort of thing. You can, as it's showed here on the banner, you can email us or text us, whatever. Happy to share it. Birthday, an anniversary, anything that's of interest to you and others, we'd like to do that. Want to say good afternoon to all my listeners on WRFA 107.9, low power to the people in Jamestown. Thanks for joining us as well. We've got another interesting show. We have like a repeat return on talking about legacies and capturing memories and all that sort of thing. And Patty Pihl is here today, and she's in the wings waiting to come on. So stay tuned. All right. I noticed that in our newspapers in the last couple of weeks that we all got something called, I think it's called Chautauqua Tourism or something like that. It's a little magazine that has all kinds of events here in Chautauqua County. I say this from time to time. What a great place to live is Chautauqua County. There are concerts, there are museums, art galleries. We got the things like the rodeo and public events like in all the small communities and fundraisers and chicken barbecues and just all kinds of great things going on. Fishing, camping, hiking, biking, I don't know what, kayaking and so forth. Just all kinds of great things going on. So if this is your first time to Chautauqua County, welcome. If you're returning, welcome back. If you live here, just grab all the good stuff that's out there. It's just so much good stuff. I've got some announcements. Some of them we've talked about in the past. I'm just going to reference them a little bit, and then I actually have a couple of slides that we're going to pop up. So just to remind you that the Tarp Skunks, our baseball team over in Jamestown, will be playing ball this year. And without going into great detail, they are allowing people to sit without masks and social distancing if in fact you can prove that you are vaccinated. So when I read this thing, I'm thinking like, well, how in the world would I prove it? Because I've been vaccinated. And the guys showed me that on your phones, you can download something called New York State Excelsior Pass. Did I get that right? I think it's right. And you might say, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to give all this information, blah, 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 blah. Hey, the information that they asked for is the information you gave when you got your shot. For instance, your name, your birth date, and I believe they want the date of when you got your last vaccine, as I recall. And then somehow magically it downloads a code, like a little box, and on there says you've been vaccinated. So what you do is you pop it up, you show it to, like at the stadium, they got a little reader go beep, and say, okay, you're good to go. How easy is that? I understand they're probably going to be using it, I'm guessing, I don't know this for a fact, maybe like at airports, at various venues and so forth. It's nothing intruding, it's not an intrusive thing, it's not invading your personal information, it's already out there, but that's up to you. Otherwise, if you don't have a way to prove it, you got to sit with masks and social distance on the other half of the stadium. So anyways, Tarp Skunks are starting up, and that's really cool. Also, we mentioned a couple weeks ago, kayak launchings. There's 5 different places where you can drop your kayak into the water, and I just think that's pretty fabulous because so many of my friends now are kayakers. And let's see, I'm just trying to think. I know there's at Chautauqua Lake, Findlay Lake, over at Cassadaga and Bear Lakes, Lake Erie. So just, check it out. The information's out there. I'm sure there's a website for that. And then also, I don't know if you've done this yet, but I walked into the supermarket the other day without a mask on. It was free feeling. It's like I could finally see other people's faces and so forth. And so we're getting there, aren't we? But once again, I think the rule of thumb would be if the establishment asks you to wear a mask, wear a mask. It's really easy. I was talking to another fellow the other day. We're just sitting around waiting to get our vehicles inspected or whatever, oil change, and we were saying the same thing. What's the big deal? You got to wear for 15 minutes to do whatever, and then you leave. So no biggie. But that's seems to be more and more, less and less, the use of masks and social distancing. So keep up the good work, Chautauqua County. This one is a mark your calendar. We talked about this before, but I just mentioned it because before we know it, it's here. But if today is June 12th, this is in 2 weeks from now, Prevention Works is hosting a chicken barbecue chevettes. Yum, the best. It's going to be June 23rd from 3:30 to 7 p.m. up there at the Masonic Forest Lodge Hall at 329 East Main Street in Fredonia. Okay, chicken dinners are $12, includes a half chicken, 2 sides. Thanks for bringing that up, Jeff. A roll and butter. It's a pickup only, okay? And they do such good work, and they're helping people be healthy, be safe, and this helps offset their costs, okay? So those are past announcements that I wanted to share. Then just a couple more, and then we'll get moving on our show. If you are in the Ripley area, you have to stop and visit the library. I believe the hours are 10 to 5 daily, I think Tuesday through Friday. if you didn't see the spread in the newspapers this week, it's fabulous. Folks living in Ripley should be so proud of their library. It's gorgeous, it's totally renovated, and it's eye-popping. That's all I can tell you is you go in there, you're going to say, wow, I want to be in there. I want to go visit there. I want to sit down, get a book and relax. I want to get on the computer. I want to do whatever. You want to be there. So anyways, check out the library in Ripley. It's really, really cool. All right, what else we got? Okay, let's go to slide 15, Jeff. Okay, triple P parenting. Say that 10 times fast, Justin. Triple P parenting. I can't even say it twice. Parents Stay Positive, a triple P positive parenting program. They did it to me again. They're free 2-hour discussion, and the group can help you in the following areas. All right. Identify some of the reasons for problem behavior, including parent traps. I don't know what that means, other than sometimes our kids set us up. Keep track of the problem behavior. You know, sometimes we don't even realize things are happening, but you gotta kind of track it. Use positive parenting strategies for preventing the problem behavior and encouraging good behavior. I really love this stuff because I used to teach some of this stuff when I was in one of my jobs as an educator. Use positive parenting strategies for dealing with the problem behavior if it happens. What do you do? How do you handle it? And then continue to refine your parenting plans. You gotta have a plan sometimes. Each discussion group can be taken as a standalone session or as part of a series. So this is what they got. They got 3 different sessions. Dealing with disobedience. It's for parents of children ages 0 to 12. I'm not exactly sure what 0 is. Is that like day 1? Date, well, they're still kicking, okay. June 7th from 12 p.m. to 2 p.m. Almost everything theirs is noon to 2. And it's free. It's on Zoom. The next one is June 14th. Oh, June 7th is already done by now. I'm in the future. I keep forgetting. So that one's already out of the way. Managing fighting and aggression. Parents of children, again, ages 0 to 2, 12, 0 to 12. I'll get it. June 14th, 12 to 2. Again, free, Zoom. Developing good bedtime routines. Same group. June 28th, same time, same cost, free. Hassle-free shopping with children. Oh, there's another one. Same parent group, July 12th. And again, Zoom, cost-free. Nothing like shopping and the kid throws themselves on the floor screaming, I hate you, you won't buy me anything, and they're kicking and screaming and these blood-curdling noises, and you shrink down to about 3 inches and you're totally embarrassed. I remember the story, we went shopping with my youngest, and he didn't do anything bad. What he did was he disappeared. And we couldn't find him for like 20 minutes, and what he did was he went, you know how they have those circular clothes racks? Well, he found a little hidden area in there. We were just panicked, and he was sitting there just hiding, thinking the thing was really cute. Okay, enough on that. We're going to take a public service announcement break, and then we're going to get right to our show. Stay tuned.
Okay, Daddy, Dr. Elmo says you're healthy.
Oh, well, thank you. Our children and families want us to be healthy. That's why I and lots of other grown-ups got the COVID-19 vaccine, so we can stay healthy and get back to the moments we miss, like seeing our friends and family.
Here you go, Daddy, for a healthy checkup, a sticker.
Oh, thanks, son.
With free COVID-19 vaccines, sunnier days are ahead. Visit getvaccineanswers.org.
My guest and I are reminiscing about parenting here and thinking about these classes they have for parenting, and how I used to apologize to my dad after I had kids, and I said, Dad, I'm sorry. I go, for what? I go, doesn't matter. I'm just sorry. I had no idea what I was putting you through. I'm trying to fix my collar here. I'm always backwards in the camera. There we go. All right. I want to welcome back my guest today, Pat Pihl, and we're going to have a great talk here. We did last time. And Patty, you've been really a trooper with me. Not only did I have you on a while back, but I dragged you through this torture of trying to get you on Zoom with my Rotary Club.
It's all good.
But we did it.
We did it.
And it was terrific. And I was telling you before the show that I have really thought seriously about what you do, and anybody can say, oh, my life's not important. Who would want to know about me? Children want to know more. Grandchildren want to know. Great-grandchildren, cousins. I mean, I do a lot of history for our family, and I'm like the go-to guy.
Right.
They'll say, well, tell us about so-and-so and what happened. They go, oh, okay, I got to bring it up on the computer. So, but I shouldn't be the only one that knows all that stuff. It should be spread out and so forth. So today we're going to talk about personal histories and legacy, capturing people's lives and all the nuggets of life. So tell us a little bit about what you do and how you got involved again.
Well, I used to be a reporter, so I did feature stories, not any type of hard news. But I loved the whole interview process. I really believed that everyone had a story. Whenever I would go and interview someone, and I really thought, I was intrigued by it. And then I think I told you before, I heard that there was this Association of Personal Historians who did just that, except they did it in greater depth than a reporter or a journalist would do it. And they captured people's stories, things that are important for the person to pass on. That it's not just, we always talk about passing on our wealth or our possessions or whatever,
Right.
but it's also your accumulated knowledge, your wisdom and so forth, and what you've been through. And a lot of times that gives families more perspective on family dynamics. So I just thought that was really important, and I just started getting involved. I developed, or I started Real Life Legacies in 2014, which is my business. And I just started marketing it and giving talks, telling people about the importance of creating a legacy. And just as you said, many people think, well, I didn't leave a very exciting life. Other people think they did. So, but if that's your perspective, I would just say, well, first of all, people are interested, just like you said. It might not even be, you might not even think your children are, but your grandkids. And and I also say it's part of the historical record.
In our media family in Ripley, my father-in-law, he carries with him, Bill Molson, if you watch him, sayings that his family said. And I've captured many of them over time. And, I can't even think of one at the moment, but they're little phrases like, that we say, funny things, and people say, well, where'd you get that from? And, well, my grandfather used to say that. Well, then you start saying it, and you carry on this kind of culture, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that's part of family histories. Yeah, your customs, the foods you ate, when I married into my Swedish family, I was amazed at the foods that they ate, and wait, that came out wrong. Actually, but the way
you're Italian, Sicilian?
I'm Italian and German, yes,
Okay.
and English as well. My mother was an Italian war bride, so that's
Italy or Sicily?
Italy.
Okay,
yeah,
'cause
Naples.
I was saying we were from Sicily.
Yeah.
So I understood what you just meant, because the food is totally different. And I can say to you, the food that I'm used to being a Sicilian is totally different what you be eating in Naples.
Oh, definitely, definitely. My mother, she ate all kinds of, she would eat dandelion weeds.
Yeah, we do that. We did that with our Guna and things like
yeah,
that.
Yeah, burdock,
Yep.
Dandelion weeds, all that kind of stuff. Very, very Mediterranean diet.
Very earthy, yeah.
Yeah, very, very good.
But when you go to like you said, Swedish, you're like, woo!
Yeah, and then in the north, entirely different. I said, do you have a fresh vegetable in this whole smorgasbord here? But
Do we have meatballs?
not our kind of meatballs, but anyway, that is funny because, but they adopted me because I did eat the food and the way they presented it, and it was so special that you almost couldn't.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I
it
do.
Was, and it was time. You had to do things in their proper order. So yeah, there's all these family traditions with food, with little witticisms, and it's fun.
Yeah. And, you and I talked on the phone the other day. I had the wonderful fortune to have had my dad as my 100th guest here on the show. And I didn't think a whole lot about it at the time, but now I can go back and I can capture that show. I can watch his facial expressions. I can see the chemistry between the two of us because we had great chemistry. And I have that. But many people, they probably can't even remember what their parents' voices sounded like unless they still have it on their phone on a message or something. You
Yeah,
know?
that's what I said. Although, video is becoming, people capture videos all the time. But yeah, that's true. And so my job when I do a book is to capture the person's voice, right? It's in first person.
Yeah.
So I can't write as I would write. I have to write the way they speak.
So for our audience that's listening that may not be familiar, first person is I.
Right.
I did this.
Right.
So you are in their bodies and they're writing.
Like ghostwriting almost. Yeah.
So are these like biographies or autobiographies?
Sometimes both. Sometimes they've already prepared something and I just help them tidy it or fill in the gaps so that, obviously that would be an autobiography. Sometimes, we're starting and I'm providing the questions. And then we go from there. We kind of form the themes of their life from there. And then some of them are also memoirs, right? Just a period maybe in their lives.
Sure.
Maybe they're I haven't had one that just talked about military history, but that would be an example. What somebody did. You mentioned
Right.
Memorial Day.
Yeah.
Maybe what somebody their branch of service and what they did in the military and some of the conflicts maybe they saw. But so it's each project is very individual. Sometimes there's similarities. There are similarities across projects, but usually people do a little bit of both. They do the personal and they do the business type, and merge their histories because we don't just live our lives in one aspect, right?
Right. Justin and my camera on tech here, we keep track of what show we're on, and this is show 362. And I was thinking to myself again on my way here, is that I don't even know how many guests that is, but it's probably well over 300 different people, because some of them are repeat,
Right.
And I think I interview people all the time. What's
You have
that?
groups?
I've in groups, and but I always find something about an individual that I thought I knew, and they tell me something. I'm just floored. I'll give you a quick example. Randy Anderson, right? He's with the Sports Hall of Fame. He was a teacher. Okay, so I've got this image of him, and then he tells me out of the clear blue that he was a car mechanic and on race cars. My mouth hit the floor. I mean, it was like
Never knew that.
never even saw him in that role, and he had done it for 30 years, and I just never saw, getting your hands greasy and all that.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just like, what? And so
Yeah.
we went down that road, because that, like you, I get to go down that road. You capture it all. I put it on film, but
Yeah.
I mean, but it was just totally out of the clear blue, and I love those little stories. That's what's so fun about doing this show is I hear things like you talked about your Swedish family there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I get that because.
Yeah.
Like my wife's family, the cuisine is a little different, and there's things that they have, and I remember 40 years ago, like, what's this all about?
Well, not only that. I mean, you have Italian people who, by and large, are very, demonstrative in all of their emotions, right?
Yeah.
Okay, everybody gets where I'm coming from. And then Swedes are they're very reserved by and large. I mean, I'm stereotyping,
Yes,
obviously.
sure.
So it was like it was like this ball of fire walked into this, this rest home or something when I first. I hope my husband better not watch this or I'm in trouble.
You're in
but
trouble.
they were, but actually, it was kind of a nice compliment.
Yeah.
It was to how I was because they were very.
Yeah, get you to slow down a bit.
Yeah, get me to slow down a bit. But anyway, no. Each culture has their own fascinating attributes. So
Yeah.
it's all good.
So you do a variety of different things for folks. So I'll let you just take us down each one of those things. We're going to talk about your website here in a little bit.
Yeah,
So go ahead and expand on what you'd like to.
Well-
we wanted to dig a little deeper today about what you do and what people can have you work with them on.
Right. Well, as I said, sometimes people have some type of a manuscript, that they've already worked on. a lot of times they have a hard time getting it done, you know, and we all do. So when I come in, you know, I'm going to make sure that that gets done if they've already, or if it's something that they want to start. But as I mentioned before, I do work for hospice, and now this year, because of the pandemic, I haven't had a lot of interaction, but I have made story cards for their patients. But this isn't just for hospice people. Like this one, for instance, this was when my mom was, I did this card. This was her birthday card for her 90th birthday. And I kind of talk about her early life and then growing up and then how she met my dad. And this was an old wedding picture, which I found out later. This was actually like a week after they were married. They kind of did a pose. Yeah, they did a pose. So this was at my son's graduation. This was her firstborn, and this was the house she lived in since she was 22. So, and then we all signed the back. This is a copy. So that was kind of a unique kind of a gift, and you could do this for any type of commemoration, Father's Day, Mother's Day.
And this was for her 90th birthday?
This was for her 90th birthday.
So what was her reaction to it?
Oh, she thought she loved it. She loved it. She thought, yeah, it's one of those gifts that you're not expecting, and it's so personalized, and it's very heartwarming. And this is one I did. Now I can mention his name. He's a writer friend of mine. He's a graphic artist or a visual artist, I should say. George Clever. He's also an author, but he's a Native American or part Native American, and he does a lot of artwork, and it was influenced by his, again, this is more of his hobby aspect, the petrographs and I think it's called pictographs that are you'll see on rocks. So anyway, we talked about that, and he included this. He actually wrote a memoir, which I edited, and he included this this information. And I wanted to bring this into, this is what we call a legacy letter. They used to call them an ethical will, which people get away from that. I know you kind of grimace, but so it's telling people what they mean to you. It's telling them, you know, your values, your strong beliefs. But this one was so heartwarming because this man had raised his young granddaughter from, you know, basically raised her. I mean, she had interaction with her parents, of course, but they were very busy with their careers, and they had a shared love of history. So this just is talking to her. It's just a letter to her and some of their memories. So,
oh my gosh.
So yeah, so that was really beautiful. So that's kind of on the, you know, that's kind of on the, you know, I want to say the lower, I don't want to say lower end, but, you know, it's a very simpler, smaller project.
So what was the granddaughter's reaction to that?
Well, you know what? I do not know because that was part of a hospice project. So, but the granddaughter was, you know, I mean, she loved her grandfather. They did everything together. And at this point, she had been, you know, before he passed, she was a teenager. So the mother said she loved it. She, you know, her grandmother rather treasured it. So, and I'm hoping she, you know, continues to do that and holds it in the future.
Do you ever do this, find a letter or email or a picture of your parents or grandparents, and you just sit there and it's like on TV, you just get pulled back to that moment. Do you ever get...
Oh yeah, yeah, pictures. That's why you open up a photo album and it's like you can, you know, you start looking and then 3 hours later you get sucked into it. It's like a time warp.
Yeah.
Or, you know, yeah.
I'm sitting here trying to imagine the granddaughter finding that 10 years from now.
Oh,
you know, that would be so good.
He talks about all the things they did together, the sites they visited, because he was a history teacher, and she loved history too, probably because of him.
And you know, we get into our busy lives, and we start to forget the little pieces of the memory. And there, I bet you capture it, and you kind of, when the person reads it, it comes back.
Right, because he probably remembers things maybe she didn't because she was young, and
it was from his perspective, and you know, she's this little kid, and yeah. I know, I forget, my brother every once in a while will say, remember when we did this? I go, no. And then I have to really think about it, and all of a sudden it starts getting clearer and clearer, and then, yeah, I guess I did remember, but it was like, wow.
Yeah, and what's funny is if you get siblings together, they'll remember the same incident very differently.
Absolutely.
Which is, depending on their age, their perspective, who was the favorite child or who they presume was the favorite child. But yeah, it's, and I always say memories aren't 20/20. They're your perception. I mean, you want to get the facts as clearly as you can and as best as you can, but they're your perception of reality. That doesn't mean that it's something totally divorced from the truth, but everyone has colors at it a little bit different. If that,
right, and you own it. This is how I remember it. And,
that's right.
And you're not going to debate the thing. If you want to
No.
debate, this is a different forum.
Right. This is my perspective on how this unfolded, and that's perfectly okay. That's your truth. So anyway, that's kind of on the simpler end, like you said.
Yeah.
And I also do. This is just a short paperback that, or soft cover, I should say, of this woman's life. And actually, her daughter commissioned this because her father was a Navy pilot, and when he passed, there was a lot of ceremony, and a lot of people were talking, and the daughter thought, I want my mom to have some of this. She was the stalwart of the family, and she had a career, and she has just done so. And someone did a lot of a history of their family in terms of coming from Quebec, and then how they landed in. I guess they were in the Finger Lakes region, or northern, maybe it was northern New York. And then it just goes through the history of, what she went to school. She's this farm girl, went to school in New York City, and she actually loved it. She loved the bustle. So anyway, we put this together, and and actually her son was just so happy with this that he did a little post on my Facebook page. So that was great, and they just loved it.
That looks like about maybe 40 pages?
Let's see. No, actually it's 80. It's 80 pages, and there's a little family tree in the back.
Oh, how cool.
Yeah, so there's a little family tree, and, see, she talks about, again, it's her growing up, her family's history, and meeting her husband and her career and all that. So that was really nice. And then on the kind of the higher end, you can even get one of these.
Fancy schmancy.
Yeah. So these hard covers with the soft cloth and the, bindings come all different ways, right? There you can get sewn binding, you can get glued. This is a sewn, Typically, a lot of these books are 6 by 9.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I included cards that this woman got from her, or gave her daughter. This is funny because they lived in this house, and this was her favorite wallpaper that was in the powder room. So I said, why not put that on the end pages, to really personalize it.
Uh-huh.
So this was quite a project, but this is really heirloom quality, and then for a cover, to protect it.
So are there pictures in that book?
Oh yeah.
So can I maybe-
Sure.
Well, no, you go ahead.
Oh, okay. Well,
You can
that's
kinda
right.
show
You want
us.
to show, yeah. There's all kinds of pictures, and it starts when she. Let's see. It starts, obviously when she was young, and I had a, graphic designer doing this. So it just starts when she was younger, and about how her dad. Actually, a cute little story. Her dad was. I don't know if he was in the reserves or
You
what.
want to hold that up just a
Sure.
little bit higher for the camera?
Sure.
There you go.
And so he came home to see his daughter, and so he went AWOL, and then and that's
shoot.
her in junior, and that's her in junior high. So anyway, and this was her favorite color. She loved this periwinkle, so we decided to make that. And so he just couldn't stay away because he had this newborn daughter, and and it just, and it talks about how she met her husband, and I'm having a hard time kinda showing some of the pictures. This was her daughter's.
Oh,
This
yeah.
was some of the house they lived in. She was quite the cook, so her husband took his wife's picture and put her head on Julia Childs. So we had to capture that. But just funny things like that. And they had just so many friends and.
Yeah, and you see someone like me just passing through that would not have known the color, would not have realized that was the wallpaper,
Yeah.
wouldn't have known the joke behind the Julia Child's
Right.
picture, and that's the beauty of what you're doing. It's
Right.
like it's so personal, and it's like like a codex. It's like a special secret code that the family knows, but nobody else knows.
Right,
sometimes?
but the immediate family would know that, but like you said, grandchildren or friends might not know all that. So, so this particular man, the husband, he got the hardbound for close family members, and then he had soft covers made for friends because they really did have just so many friends. So. Yeah, and there's a lot of stories about friends included in there. So.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
I bet they
So this
would
was a
enjoy it.
tribute because his wife had passed. So
Yeah.
that
All
was a
right.
tribute.
So my mind's racing here a bit, as it usually does when I'm interviewing. So you capture the story in draft form somewhere in your computer or whatever, and then you begin to collect things. I mean, what's the process? Tell us about that.
Well,
Especially for this. I mean, this is a major deal.
yeah, this was a major deal because this is a tribute to someone who had passed. So it was basically when I sit down with someone, a lot of this had to do the end part of it had to do with her struggles, her health struggles, but a good portion of it had to do with capturing her essence, her personality, her drive,
And she had already passed.
She
You
had
never met her.
I had met her. I had met her
But
before she passed.
Had you interviewed her?
Well,
For the book, or for the tribute, I mean.
I didn't. I did a legacy card first. That's
Okay.
how I met.
All right.
That's how I met. That's
All right,
how
so
I
you
did
had a little
them.
bit of inkling.
I had a little bit of inkling, and then so I said, you might at some point you might want to capture a fuller story of your wife, and so. I said, ask your girls. He called me back and he said, yeah, we want to go forward with this. So I kind of had them, I kind of do this with most people. I have them fill out like a little form that gives me basic information. So if they name an uncle's name or a friend's name, I know who that is, right? So, clubs different associations they might have belonged to, interests. I ask, what do you want me, what are things that you absolutely want me to capture? So that gives me some background. I don't always do that, but I do that a lot of times, especially when it's a big project. And so, so I just started. I actually started with the husband and the daughters. What was how did you meet? What was what was she like? What was your mom like as a mom?
Kind of flesh her out a bit.
Yeah. And then as it turned out, and then other family members. So there was like 25 people I interviewed, I think.
Woo.
Yeah, and that's a lot because you're integrating.
Yeah.
This is where the work comes in. So you have to kind of integrate all that into something that's, readable, and there's a timeline involved, and your themes, like I said before, your themes are being promoted in the book, and. So we decided to call it A Life to the Fullest because that was really what her life represented. She wanted to live life to the fullest, and she did.
So then you have an editor? Who edits you?
Actually, I did. I had there were two types of editing that went with this. There was, I'm trying to think. There was obviously at the end there was proofreading. That was one type of editing. But then there was like content editing.
Yeah.
Like an editor, because you've written things,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So somebody to suggest, okay, you need more information right here, or maybe you should put this paragraph over here.
Right. Or you got the timeline is a little goofed up here.
Right.
Yeah, I've
it's
done
called
that.
developmental editing. So yes, with something like that. Now with the smaller projects, it might not be that. I wouldn't have two editors, but so that's involved.
So that's your job too. So people are listening right now saying, "Well, I'd like to tell my story, but I can't write. I mean, I can't."
You don't-
You just talk and you do the work.
Right, exactly. So it's a taped interview, and a lot of times it's like I probably mentioned this before, it's 6 to 8 hours. So I take those interviews and then I transcribe them. Some personal historians will actually have people that transcribe it, but I don't, because I think even though it's very time consuming to transcribe 8 hours of interviews, you pick up things that you missed. People may say something a certain way. They're just things that you miss that if somebody just transcribed it, they might not. Or you could say, oh, I can leave that out. I don't have to transcribe it word for word, or for or
And sometimes you do want to get the like instead of they shorten words down or they use contractions rather you want to capture just how they sounded sometimes.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So yeah, it is a process. It isn't, like I said, every project's different depending on, if it's simpler or more complex, more involved project.
There are
but,
some people are very private once you do this thing. So what becomes of the tapes? What becomes of the notes? I mean,
Well, I always tell people I'm the only person that listens to them, and if sometimes people will say, "Oh, can I have a copy of that too?" Because they want, like you were saying, they want to hear the voice of of the person or themselves, and I can do that. I can supply them with a copy, but that's it. It's just I only keep it for so long, and then once I've done the transcription, it's gone. So.
wow.
Yeah, so it's quite involved.
So
but-
how long did it take from day one to here's your book?
Well, there's a lot of factors. This took a couple years, but only because I'll tell you why. Because, all right, life gets in the way, right? So, I'll provide a draft to them, right? In fact, usually I say, okay, this is a sample of how the style I'm going to use. Is this okay? But a lot of times they're busy, so they have I may provide chapters for them to look at and clarify, make notations, and I might not get a response right away because, oh yeah, I'm going to look at that. I'll look at that. I'm looking at it next week. I got to have my daughter look at it. That type of thing.
Right,
so,
right.
And I'm not blaming it all on the client because and it should take a while.
Yeah.
It should be just as they want it.
Do you ever get the situation where you say, here's the chapter, and the person says, I just can't do this right now because it's bringing back memories or
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. That
it's too fresh or something like that?
Yeah. Well, with yes, and some topics are just and I ask I'll just say we don't have to go there. I think what makes I think people should try to stay away from trying to make their lives look perfect. Because first of all, it's not believable, and people are more interested when they see family members, when they see you've had struggles, right?
And the bumps and the bruises.
Yeah, they are. I mean, we all have them, and it might, a lot of times I say that younger people will say, well, gee, Grandpa went through this, that, and the other thing, then what I'm going through doesn't seem like much, right? So there's that strength there, and, don't try to look like a perfect person, because none of us are. Just try to have, but obviously they're
You're the customer.
yeah, they are, and whatever they want or don't want is, in other words, I leave it entirely up to them what they want to talk about and what they don't. If they don't want to talk about something, we leave it alone.
Now, this is always the touchy topic of cost, and you don't have to quote any cost, but you can tell the audience whatever you want. But if someone says, boy, I don't know if I can afford that, or how do I find more information and things like that? How does that work?
Well, they can contact me, and what I usually do is I sit. If somebody says they're interested, I sit them down, and first I listen to all their ideas, right? Write down their ideas. What are your plans? Is this going to be a family or your own personal history, or is this going to be a tribute? Whatever. Listen to it all. Listening is very important. And then after that, I say, okay, this is what it's like to work with me, and I try to see if there's a fit, right? If we're a good fit. And I base the cost off of interview hours, right?
Okay.
And the type of the project. Now, printing is entirely different. Obviously, something that's a soft cover is going to be a lot less, right? Than something of this heirloom quality. So it's hard to say with printing until you know the number of words, until you know the pictures, how many pictures, if they're in color, if they, a lot of times pictures you get aren't real high quality, so sometimes they are. So you have to do a little bit of, a graphic designer will have to doctor. But my cost is pretty set based on interview hours, right? And because it takes, I always say for every interview hour, it takes about 10 hours and that seems like a lot, but by the time it's transcribed, written in draft form, looked at by the client, and then comes back to me for edits.
Sure.
And usually there's 2-3 rounds of edits. But so it just depends. But I try to tell people, I try to work within whatever their budget is,
Okay, gotcha.
and so that they'll have some, and if they just wanted a manuscript of, just having something down in a manuscript.
Doesn't have to be real fancy necessarily.
No.
Just a document.
A
Put it in
document.
the safe and done.
Right,
Yeah.
that's a possibility too.
Yes.
Then you skip the whole printing thing. At least it's there.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but I do try to work with people because, I think it's important that it's not just, I don't want to just make this just for people who are affluent too, right? Because, it's important to capture, histories of all people, like I said,
And I'm sitting here thinking, what a wonderful gift this would be for somebody like you did for your mom, but somebody that of any age, like a birthday present or an anniversary or something, right? I mean,
Oh, definitely.
very cool.
There's so many applications to this. Like when people get, I haven't done this, but when people, a couple is engaged and they decide to get married, you can kind of do a little history of both people and then how they got together, and it's just kind of a beautiful way to, recognize. Hopefully they don't.
Wedding gift.
Yeah, wedding gift. So, so there's all kinds of applications.
Do people ever say, maybe I'm creating a product here for you. I want to give a gift, and I want to give it like a gift certificate. So like, I'm going to give you X amount of dollars, and this couple can contact you, and you know what I mean? Sort of like a certificate type thing?
They sure can.
So there, I just created a new product for you.
Yeah. The only thing is, I want to make sure, not a lot of times. Sometimes people want they think it's important for somebody else to have that history, but that person is reluctant for whatever.
I'm not telling anybody anything.
Yeah, for whatever reason, it's like, it's like getting a gift that you would like, for somebody else. So you have to make sure the person would be accepting of that.
It's like getting a pair of boots that are really ugly. They'll never wear them. Hey, you've got a website. Let's make sure we cover that while we still have time. So Jeff, if you could bring that up, because I think this is real informative for people, and if we could actually, so it's called.
Right.
Go ahead.
RealLifeLegacies.com.
Okay, and then we're actually going to look at it.
Oh, great.
There you go.
Yeah. So. Oh, nice. Okay, so
It's your website.
So you have your channels there. Your homepage. Why create a personal history about me?
I like your little phrase there, where words come alive.
Yeah, I was working with a graphic designer, and she just came up with that, and I said, I love that. So the benefits to the person.
Let's hold right there, Jeff.
Okay.
Okay. So if they come to this point and they can click on that little box there and find out more, it says.
Right.
All right. Go ahead, keep going. So what we offer.
Okay, what others are saying, those are testimonials from different people. And this is the one I wanted to point to, what it's like to work with a personal historian. So if people are wondering, they can watch that. I think it's a, 3-minute, 4-minute clip about what it's like to work with personal historian. And they talk about people who are, book like myself, book historians, or video. Some people do a video. And I always say it's never too early to start, but it can be too late. So, people can go on there, kind of get a feel for what I'm doing in greater detail, and there's contact information. And, if somebody just wants to talk to me, it's fine. Just give me a holler, and we can talk on the phone, or we can get together. I can see what your ideas are, and it's no obligation.
Since I stream around the world,
Yeah.
obviously you're limited to a certain degree, but for those that are watching right now, they may say, well, I have relatives in Buffalo. Would you go to Buffalo? Would you go to Jamestown? I mean, do you have a certain region that you work?
Well, yeah, I would certainly go to anywhere in the Western New York area. There's also, if people are comfortable, there's also what we've been doing. Well,
Zooming, yeah.
Zooming.
Sometimes.
That's also a possibility.
Yeah.
Where there's a will, there's a way. And I've interviewed people for this book. I interviewed some friends and family members right over the phone. Yeah, I definitely would go, in the Western New York, travel myself in the Western New York area or in PA, Western PA. So yeah, that's all a possibility. We can make it work.
There you go. Wow. I'm sitting here and thinking these are loaded questions, so you answer them any way you want.
Okay.
But the first one was like, people ask me this all the time. What's your most interesting show? And there's so many of them, it's hard for me to pick, so usually I mention a couple. But was there one that floats to the top of your mind, was kind of intriguing or interesting or just whatever?
Yeah, they're all interesting and they're all in their own ways. And when I work with somebody, each person has to be comfortable. In other words, when they sit down with me in that first meeting, part of that is, am I comfortable talking to this person, And because getting them to that level of comfort and asking the right questions, we'll get that story. But there's a couple. When I did the interview, or when I edited the memoir for my Native American friend, and he really had lived in 2 different lives. He lived the life of a white person because he was half German. He lived the life of a Lenape Indian.
Oh.
And that was fascinating because he talks about, he talks about issues that we just don't, we hear a lot about, things like Black Lives Matter, but you don't hear too much about Native issues.
First Nations, yeah.
And he brought a lot of that out to life. And he just had a fascinating, some of the way, the contrast between the way, natives and white people.
A real dichotomy.
Yeah, they look at the world so different. That was interesting. Plus, he had an interesting life. He was a mathematics professor, and he's a visual artist. He's an author. He's a mathematician.
So there was a lot of layers to explore with this gentleman.
There was tons of layers, and it was fascinating. And he was a good storyteller.
So it always helps.
Yeah, it does. But I'll tell you, I had a call from a woman. And I would love this to develop into something. This was recently, and that's why it's on the top of my mind here. So her uncle was, that Memorial Day. He was a veteran. He's passed now, but her uncle was. This was before the Air Force. He was in World War II. He was in the Army.
Army Air Force.
My dad was in
the Army Air Force.
Yeah. So he was. He was a tail gunner, right, on what they used to call the flying fortresses. And he was flying over France. He was on a mission from Europe to France, a bombing mission, and he was shot down by the Germans, and his crew survived, but so he was wandering around the French countryside for a while. And a French family kind of took him in and hid him.
Oh, wow.
But they were planning his escape, and this is where the mystery comes in. They were planning his escape, but somehow there was a think that somebody was scared or something and told the Germans where he was. Ratted on him, right. And so he was in Stalag 15. He was in a German prison camp for like 2 years. And so his story is amazing, and then his aunt was one of those radio operators who would intercept these messages from Berlin that talked about who was captured as POWs and where their whereabouts and so forth. So it was just so interesting because a lot of it's a mystery. Like, who was this French family? There's a card. This family I talked to this man's niece. They kept his POW tags. Oh. They kept all his papers, and it was just a treasure trove.
It's like a movie.
It is like a movie.
Yeah.
And so she was trying to find a place to put all this stuff. And I said, well, I know there's the World War II museum in New Orleans. But there's also this World War II museum in Eldridge, PA, and that's where she's going to just donate this stuff so it can be proper. She says, I'm the last in the line.
What do you do with these things?
Yeah. But she sees the value in it, and she just doesn't,
Yeah.
So there's postcards and there's all this.
Right.
I was just really taken in by that story, but.
Wow. Well, thanks for sharing that. A question popped up while you were talking is in my piece here. It was how many personal historians are there?
Well, at one time there was a group, and it's dissolved at this point for a variety of reasons. But the Association of Personal Historians at one point had 600 personal historians worldwide.
That's not very many when you think about it.
No, it isn't. I mean, people that belong to the association.
Right, but still, I mean, that's a pretty small group, really.
So there were others that probably did it,
sure,
but they
just
didn't.
don't belong.
Right, and so yeah, you're right. I mean, they were mainly in the U.S. and Canada, UK, some in Australia, but so fortunately, I've kept in contact with those people, and I'm able to share information and share, when there's a question. We have a listserv, so we can put it out. So we're so it's nice. Yeah, so that helps out a lot.
So how many lives have you recorded so far, do you think?
I'm going to say probably a dozen if you're not counting the cards. With the cards, probably, I don't know, 50 to 100.
Okay, you've been busy.
Yeah.
So we down to a couple of minutes here. You got any future projects going on right now? Or present project, whatever.
Yeah, yes. I'm working on two things right now. There is a local farm that has been in the family since 1969 that has currently sold. I won't give too much information, but it's close by, and a lot of history of that family on that farm, and it goes back to the Prendergast family.
Oh.
Yeah, so.
There were Prendergast in Ripley. Did you know that?
Really?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
At the foot of my road, if you go down Brockway Road to the Route 20, there's a house there, and it was, I want to say Joseph Prendergast. He was the brother of James Prendergast that's, founder of Jamestown.
Right.
Ripley and Jamestown has some really interesting, I'm a town historian too. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, the Prendergasts were kind of scattered about, too.
But their main was in Mayville to start with.
Yes. Well, where that historical marker is, where it said this was the first log home, and then there's that cemetery, landlocked cemetery. So the history of that farm, and that's been fun. That's been a lot of fun doing that. Also, someone contacted me, and this was amazing. He did a one-name study, and I didn't know what that was either. He did research on everyone who had his last name in the United States and in England.
Wow.
And he tried to fit, from the 1600s. I mean, this took years.
Yeah.
And he did all these trees, and then he has chapters in the book about, interesting Smiths, I'll say, or outlaws who were Smiths, and and it's really cool.
Very cool.
Yeah.
We're down to half a minute.
Oh.
How about one more time your website and a phone number, perhaps?
Yeah, sure. reallifelegacies.com. And my phone number is 753-0987.
Okay.
And feel free to just, no obligation if you have any questions, if you, just anything,
Pat Pihl, it's always been a pleasure to talk with you. We could sit down and talk about this all day. I really love it.
I probably detailed too much information.
No,
right?
that's what this show's about. We wanted to dig deeper, and we really did today, and I really enjoyed the stories behind the stories. So, folks, you've been watching Chautauqua Sunrise. My guest today has been Patricia Pihl, who's a personal historian. Very, very cool line of work. I really enjoyed that.
Thank you.
We're going to do this all again next week. Remember, this is a pre-tape show. You can watch us, but you can't call us. And next week is June 19th, I guess. So take care. We'll see you all next time. Thanks a lot, Pat.
Oh, you're welcome. I always wonder, what am I going to talk about? And then you...